All right, no fluff on this one. M3 is here, so let's chat about it. Let's go. Okay, so if you're newer to following or listening or following along with my car guide journey, this has been a bit of a rocky road the last several years with the amount of car turnover. And I used to beat myself up over this. I used to get bent out of shape that I had too many cars, or I'm constantly flipping them or changing my mind all the time. And it's as of recent, maybe the last maybe year and a half, that I've come to the realization that it's just what I like doing. So who cares? I mean, most of the time I don't lose a bunch of money, and so why wouldn't I do this? What's going to stop me from doing this and chasing this idea of having a bunch of cars? So the current state, the M3 is this is a car I had back in 2010. Late 2010 is when I got that. I'll tell that story in a minute. And so I sold my 2018 Ford Raptor, and I got this M3 after chasing and thinking and overthinking, what I should choose or what car I wanted. I knew I wanted a car, but I wasn't sure which one. The E92 M3 kept coming back into my head. So I'm gonna I guess attempt to justify this purchase so that everybody will like me, right? So I guess we'll see how that goes. But this process of me getting on a microphone or getting in front of a camera, you can say what you want, but I'm not contriving this. This is the life I would have been living with from a car perspective, no matter what. I'd be doing all of this crap. Now I don't know that I'd have a podcast studio like this, but I would want an office, something like this. I would want the cars that I want, and then my thesis here, my business plan is to share that with people, and then my life is my life, and then the business has come of sharing my crazy life with the world, and so that's what I'm doing. So again, I would have been searching and trying to buy an E92 M3, with or without YouTube, but it's certainly fun to let other people in, and the byproduct of it is I get to get out of my own head and stay hopefully sane, right? So the E92 M3, let's go back to the beginning of the why M3, why that car. I think let's see, when did the E30 come out? E30s were what, 86, 87, something like that. My math is a little off. I've never been an E30 fan, so I became more of an M3 and BMW fan. I remember the 318 Ti hatch. So this is like 96. There was one wealthy kid in our town. He's the only one who had a BMW, and it wasn't really wealthy, but wealthy in comparison to what I thought was wealthy. And so he had a 318 Ti hatch, which I thought was the greatest thing ever, because you could put 15s in the back, and it would look, it looked kind of funky now that you go back and look at it, but at the time I thought it looked great. The grill was awesome. You could put the stereo in and not have it vibrate a lot. It was just awesome. He had a killer stereo, and just everything about it was cool. And then the E36 M3 came out. I had a chance to drive one about 100 feet from the Bryn Mawr stereo install base. So this would have been 99. So this was the first opportunity I had to sit in BMWs, and then I drove one about 100 feet to the end of the parking lot, and I was in love. It was I believe it was a Monte Carlo blue M3 coupe. It was that was a 4-door. We also had a yellow one that came in, and then one of my there was a guy who worked with me. His name was Brian. He was a car stereo salesman for a short period of time. He was a drug dealer, And so it was funny. He'd always let me count how much cash he had in his pocket every day. It was incredible sums of money, $3, $4, $5, $8, $10,000. But he bought an OBD1, a 95 E36, and I thought that thing was amazing. I wanted one so badly. And then, of course, what would it have been? 2000, when the E46 came out. Right, it was 2000. I think they're 2000, maybe 2001 through 2005, and I almost bought one a bunch of times. This is when I first started selling, stereos and started to make a little bit of money, and that's when of course I got my Civic, my '99 Civic Si, and I wanted a Type R, and then I started making more money, and I just never ponied up to take that huge. I think the E46 at the time was the payment would have been like $1,000 a month or $900 a month or something like that, because I think it was like $56,000. I didn't have any money saved. I wasn't doing anything intelligent, so I was going to have to finance the whole thing. And I probably would have gotten white or red. Probably would have been red at the time. I forget what was the color, but it would have been a coupe, no sunroof, manual transmission. That was my dream. I wanted one badly, but I never got the E46 because I was in my early 20s, even all the way up to 25 when I was about ready to get an M3. Then I took the step back and went to work for Merrill Lynch, and so I never got one of them. The ultimate would have been the Le Mans Blue 2005 competition package. That would have been the jam, dude. I wanted one of those so badly, but what was that, $58,000 at the time? It just wasn't in the cards. And so fast forward a few years later, I had decided, I wanted an M3. The E92 came out in would have been late 2007, right? In a 2008 model year. They had just a handful of 2007s, but most were 2008 model year. And that car came in at, what was it? It was like 50, 55, 60,000. By the time you put a few options on it, you were at $60,000. And again, so this is 2008. I'm just now graduating the training program, so I'm still not making any money. I have an S2000 at the time. And so the first versions of the E92 M3 I thought were amazing. I remember seeing like the launch car photos, the white car. It's just the lines and the car. It's just amazing. The hump, the bump on the hood. Of course, naturally aspirated V8. I know lots of people were complaining at the time that it wasn't a purist M3 BMW and blah blah blah, but I just thought it was amazing. It just looked the part, and I again I couldn't get one because payments would have been $1,200 a month or something crazy, and I was only making $50,000, so it just wasn't an option. And so fast forward to around 2010, I was going to get a B8 S4. So I was going to continue the progression. So the S2000 would have then progressed into an S4. Part of my justification was I was driving about 40 miles each way. The S4 was going to be about $53,000. I was paying for a Sepang blue, so I was doing an individual color. And I was getting a manual transmission. I had actually bought some of the stuff like the JHM short shifter. I'd ordered the AW exhaust. I ordered the car, and then the wait began. And I wanted an M3, but I figured that would be my next car, right? As I progressed. And so, what happened? So this is summer of 2010. I guess maybe spring of 2010. I ordered the car. And I wait and nothing. And then Audi actually took all their individual colors, all their individual purchase, or the Audi exclusive colors, which was $5,000 at the time, and they just shelved them. They just pushed them back. And so I wasn't going to get the car. It was going to be like a nine month estimated wait. And so I remember waking up, I went to bed, woke up at say 2 a.m. I remember getting up, and this was when there was a Top Gear episode that they just published some clips on YouTube, and it was E92 M3 was the frozen silver, that special edition. So this is 2011 model year, DCT versus the RS4 in Europe, and the E92 just spanked it. It wasn't even close, and I was like, oh man, maybe what I should do is I should just get a low optioned M3. So I had a relatively highly optioned S4, and instead I thought, well, what if I got a low optioned M3? What would that cost? And so at the time, it looks smart now in that I didn't get navigation, I didn't get the executive package, I didn't get heated seats, I didn't get a lot of things. The car sticker was like $60,500 or something like that. But I talked to Michelle, and she let me do it. So I canceled the order, and the S4 like the next day, and found I'd been on the BMW forums forever, just kind of searching around. I found BMW Bimmer David Avilas, who's like the #1 M car salesman in the country. He sells them at sticker, no questions asked, or at least he did at the time. I think he may still do that. And so I called them up and spec'd out the car and ordered it. Of course, I wanted to do performance center delivery as well. So my spec was Le Mans Blue, model after that E46, that amazing E46 competition package that I wanted so badly. Le Mans Blue, so I had to pay for the metallic color. I had the iPod adapter, because you needed that at the time. This was, I think my car was, mine was pre-LCI, before they do the update with the taillights. I think that came in later 2011. But I had Le Mans Blue competition package. I had the manual seats, black leather. So I wanted speed cloth, but I chickened out on it. So I did black leather, the carbon trim on the interior, which was a no-cost option. And I think that was it. So really the only options were metallic paint, the competition package, and then the iPod adapter. Things that I really didn't want. I didn't want parking distance control. I didn't want the headlight squirter thingers, the little headlight washers. I didn't want that wart on the front bumper. So those are a couple of things I was adamant about. I would have loved to have had iDrive and navigation and all that stuff, the upgraded audio system, but what do they call it? Enhanced premium sound. But I was just trying to keep the cost down, because these cars could get up over $70,000, and I just didn't want to do that. So I ordered the car, did performance center delivery. I think my payment was like $1,100. I don't think I didn't put anything down. And so this is 2010. I'm 30 years old, and I got the car, right? So ordered it. It was a 2-month wait. The BMW order process is amazing. This is before YouTube. This is before I'm journaling anything. This is before hundreds of different exhausts on cars. I'd modified my S2000 and stuff, but this was before I'd been really active on participating in forums, other than just buying and selling some parts. So the car comes, and I pick it up at the Performance Delivery Center, and this is around the time I had already gotten started into detailing on my S2000, but I was using all Griot's stuff. And so when the M3 comes, I'm still an all Griot's guy. But I had a Griot's polisher. I remember I had all the red racks. For those of you who've been following me for a long time, I had the red Griot's racks on the walls, and I had like 10 of each of them. That car came when I was in Claremont, which was 40 miles away from my office. And so I eventually, what I ended up doing was, Michelle let me I ended up keeping the S2000 as my daily driver, and then the M3. I don't know how I talked her into that. So this was the foray into me having 2 cars for the first time. I was able to somehow finagle that not only did I get the more expensive car, because when I got the S4, that was going to be my only car, but I got to keep the old car as well, which was paid off. I owned it, and so we didn't have any payments or anything like that on it, so we could afford the payment on the M3, because I think we owned her car at the time too. She actually had an A4, a titanium package A4 that I'd gotten a little bit previous to that. Actually, no, we got the A4 a little later. Yeah, she had I can't remember. I think we had the A4 before we got the M3, because I know I had to park my S2000 outside, and that was a struggle. And so I actually sold all the parts, like the hard top and the exhaust and everything, for my S2000, so my S2000 was stock. So here I am. Now I have the two cars. I'm doing, actually, back up a little bit. I go to Performance Center Delivery, and I beg them not to mess up the car. And so I actually fly up there, and I bought, what was it called? It was called Road Wrap, and I tried to wrap the whole front of the car up. That didn't work very well. And my buddy Clay and I made a straight drive all the way from Columbia, South Carolina, or Spartanburg, South Carolina, I should say, all the way down here to Florida, which was like a 8.5, 9 hour drive, something like that. So I wrapped the car up, got it down here, and I know I took a week off. I had all the parts here, so I had because I sold all the S2000 parts, and I used that money to buy the parts for the M3. So I had the Vanguard exhaust. I had it was a Vanguard titanium exhaust, which isn't so popular anymore, but it was a pretty nice exhaust. What else did I have? I had all the black accents and a bunch of parts to put on the thing. And so the M3 got here. S2000 was back to stock. I drove that every day, and then drove the M3 occasionally. And we eventually sold that house, moved up to a rental in up near my office, and then that's where I eventually got the B8 S4, because I sold the S2000, got the B8 S4, so I had the S4 and the M3 for a little while. And then in 2014, I'd become a manager. I was well beyond 2008. Started making some money, and I sold the M3, kept the S4 because it was a lease, and I bought the 2014 Carrera S. So that brings you up to date with the 2011 Le Mans Blue M3 story. Single hump, manual seats, the spec now that everybody's looking for, right? Because the nav dates the car. So I've had a myriad of cars since, and my dream has always been M3 daily driver and GT3 RS as my weekend car. Now, I don't even like to call it daily driver anymore, because I don't really do daily driving. I drive a mile to HQ here from my house, and so I just drive whatever I feel like that day. But what I found was I had this. I bought the Raptor, the second Raptor, because I didn't want to take Michelle's Raptor and then give her whatever car I had, which was the GT350 or the S2000 at the time. I didn't want to give her one of those cars to trash with the kids, so I had gotten the second Raptor and gave her the other Raptor, and blah 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 blah. So no. She had the Tahoe. I didn't want to borrow her Tahoe, so I got the Raptor, the 2013 Raptor, to tow, and then eventually I gave her the old Raptor, got rid of the Tahoe, and I got the new Raptor. So sorry, it's hard to keep straight. So much for that 5-year no new car contract. I think we're coming up on that 5 years now. So that was part of the agreement with the M3 in 2011. Maybe that was the Carrera S. That was the 5-year no new car contract. So yeah, I still have a year left on that. Let's say that I've broken that contract many, many times over. So I got the 2018 Raptor. Sorry, I'm probably confusing you now. I'm confusing myself. I traded the S2000 I traded the GT350 and the Tahoe to go from 5 cars down to 4 cars, and then that was the thought process, that I'd retain the Raptor. She got the old Raptor, and I retained the extra Raptor to tow the cars up to the mountains. But I hated towing, sold the trailer, and so then I'm like, well, why do I have this giant truck? So I sold the truck, and here we are today, 2013 Le Mans Blue E92 32,000 mile M3. Right. So here's the thought process, and I did vet this a little bit, and I threw a couple of questions out there at you guys, and I already knew the answer to it. So I this is my new way of including. I don't throw this stuff out that I already know the answer to often. Normally when I ask a question, I actually have a question. But with this one, I just kind of wanted to see what people's reaction was to me getting an M3, just because I was excited about it. I wanted to share it. And so rather than just saying, hey, I'm getting an M3, I said, hey, what if I got an M3? Or what other car should I consider? And people did kind of sway me. So I'm glad I did it, because they swayed me to start looking at other things. The Alpha, what is the Giulia, the Quattrofolio, whatever the heck that thing's called, is cool. The front bumper is really ugly. The aftermarket support is garbage. The thing is Italian made, so it's probably most likely going to have some issues. The dealer is really far away, so getting it serviced is going to be a nightmare. It's one of those things where if you do have the unluck that something like a switch or something breaks, then you got to take it there and leave it there for 6 weeks, and you're driving around in a Honda Accord. I just didn't want to do that. And I don't like the front end of the car, and to spend $80,000 on that thing just doesn't make sense to me. Sounds great. That motor seems really cool. I wish BMW would take some cues from them and make if the new F80 M3 or the new, whatever the new one's called, what is it, the G30, the new G30 M3, if it sounded anything like the Giulia or the Alpha, I'd be all over that darn. It'd be perfect. It'd be awesome. It'd be great, and I'd be all about turbo. But it's not. It sounds like crap. And they're even getting worse, because now the new G30, all the pictures I've seen, looks terrible. It looks like a family sedan. So you take, now, at least the F80 is one of the best looking cars ever built. Of course, I had an F80. I left that out in the whole story of the transactions that have gone along the way. But the F80 is a really practical. So for those of you who aren't M3 people, the F80 is a 2015 through current. The G20 or 30 or whatever it's called is coming out in 2019. So we have a new variant of M3 coming. No manual apparently, only a goofy ZF automatic hunk of crap transmission. So trip out with that thing. I'm not getting one. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I'll have to eat those words. Other cars I'd considered, an E63 AMG would be awesome, but they're like $130,000 when you make it cool, and I'm just not doing that. I think it's going to be worth $50,000 in 3 years. I'm not doing that, and not in a position to do that with the new business and me not having a job anymore and me chasing this dream. So I started thinking C63, and I could kind of get over the fact that it only comes in an auto, the MCT. Some people say it's great. I've never driven a C63, but I've driven an MCT car, and it sucks. But whatever. Trip out. You can like it if you want. I just don't. I was getting over that. You can get carbon ceramics. What I didn't realize is C63 only has carbon ceramics in the front. Well, that's freaking stupid. And then I started watching videos. I'm like, after I got in the configurator, the configuration I was doing with carbon ceramics in the front was like $80-something thousand. I'm like, I think I could swing that, and they're going to sell the Raptor for $60,000-$70,000, so I'll just pony up a little bit more cash and not be out too much. And then I started watching some videos, and that thing sounds awful. Like it would, like the worst sounding thing I've ever heard. I watched some of Auto Vlog's videos, and Mike, drives around in the car, and I never really took note to how bad it sounds. He just said it sounded good. I didn't even think about it because I never really considered that, because the coupe doesn't do it for me. I would have bought the sedan. And I start watching videos, and the thing sounds like a big giant twin turbo V8 huffing through a massive straw. And then they just put some farts and some burbles and crap to mask the fact that it sounds like a giant V8 huffing through a straw. So there goes that opportunity, or that idea. And again, I wasn't looking for a GT4 or a Jag or something like that, a two-seater convertible type or two-seater type of car. I was looking for a car with a trunk, a sedan. And F80's out, Giulia's out, C63's out, E63 is out. I'm not a CTSV kind of guy. That's out. I'm not going to buy an old G8. That's out. So I did this little exercise to lead me back to the E92 M3. And I wanted it in a coupe. The E90's cool, but I wanted a coupe. I wanted a 2013. I wanted a competition package. Basically, I wanted the latest and newest version of the car that I'd already had. Right, that's what I wanted. I thought that was highly unlikely that I would find. I thought I'd have to sacrifice color or options The things that were non-negotiable would be a carbon roof, no sunroof, and a manual transmission. And the rest I was kind of open. I wanted a 2012, 2013. They didn't really have a 2012 model year. They had a 2011, a 2011.5, a 2011.75. I don't think they had called, I may be wrong, but I don't think they called any of them 2012. So I think it went right to 2013. And so I wanted the 13, the latest iterations of whatever, and I wanted something with like 10,000 miles on it. And I was willing to pay for that. And so I started searching, moderately searching, because I had the Raptor, it was fine, and then I made that post, and then people started looking for me, and I'd spoken what I was looking for, and my buddy Mike, Mike you've seen do the Prevost install. He helped Troy out doing the install and this custom install. He helped me build HQ here. He was doing some search. Everybody was searching for him. Everybody was sending either whether they were selling a car or they had a car, or my friend Nick out in Denver had a pretty close variant. He had a 2011, had 28,000 miles on it, manual, single hump, manual seats. It had tan interior, which I really didn't want, but I was almost ready to buy that car. We were thinking about doing some sort of swap where he bought the Raptor and I bought his car, because he has an AMG GT, and so the M3 was kind of getting a little stale for me. And had it for a while, so he was thinking about selling it. So while I'm doing that, Mike sends me an email. I found this car on TrueCar, and guess what it is? Le Mans Blue, manual, single hump. Holy crap! 32,000 miles, more miles than what I was looking for. I was calling Enthusiast Auto Group. I was looking at doing a one of 20 what is that orange color Lime Rock car and a manual with the car. Then I got the price. He wants like 110 grand for it. Like, I'm just not doing that because I want to buy this to drive it. So despite I started to head down this rabbit hole of looking for 1,000 mile or 8,000 mile or 5,000 mile cars. It really, the difference isn't going to be all that much, being as I'm not going to collect it, I'm going to drive it. And I'm going to modify it and do basically the same thing I did with the S2000. But this time I think I'm going to, I was thinking I don't want to waste and buy such an expensive variant. The S2000 was going to be a keep forever thing, whereas this probably won't be around forever. And so then he found this car. So here it is. And so if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see this, so I'll explain it. But if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to pull up here the full screen. So here's the car. So here's the option list, and it's almost perfect. Beggars can't be choosers here, but it's pretty darn close to perfect. So we have Le Mans Blue, right? So that was one of my hopes or wishes. Now this has speed cloth, the anthracite and black cloth leather, which is a no-cost option. So it's speed cloth, which is great for Central Florida because the heat. And the BMW leather is not all that breathable. Plus, the seats will look a little less worn as well over time. Competition package, which includes the 19-inch wheels, the 20 millimeter lower suspension, the different dampers, and better setup overall. That's the way the car should have been from the beginning. And then we have he did the Comfort Access keyless option, which whatever, that's fine. It wasn't imperative that I had that, but it's cool that it has that. Now one of the keys is dead, so I gotta either figure out how to get the battery changed in it if it's possible, because they charge when you put it in the receiver. But that's a nice little option that mine didn't have. Heated front seats, which I couldn't care less about, but it has that. So when you select the heated front seat option, I don't think that gave you the headlight squirters, but regardless, the car has a Euro front bumper on it, so I don't know, maybe he just deleted those. I don't think it has a button for it. Let's see, the carbon leather interior trim, which is a $500 option, and parking distance control in the rear, which again, who cares? I wouldn't have chosen that because it puts the little circles. What I didn't realize is that U.S. cars didn't get parking distance control in the front. Right, it only got it in the rear. And then satellite radio is freaking stupid. Who cares? Whatever. I hate satellite radio. It sounds terrible. I'd never pay for it. You had the destination charge and gas guzzler tax. So I think 2013's came standard with the iPod adapter, so it has a USB connection, and then it has the bass sound, which they actually do sound pretty decent. These cars do. So you have the 4-liter V8 and MDM. You have xenon headlights, and the carbon roof comes standard. It's no longer warranted. Not that I really care. And so I've got the car, just shy of 32,000 miles. The catch here was the car had been in an accident in 2016, at least a reported accident. And the guy I bought it from, the story was, so who knows what the story is. He bought it from one of his good buddies. And so the story goes, he bought it from one of his good buddies, and the story was that it was in a parking lot, and a truck backed into it and damaged the fender, the hood, and the front bumper. So I guess it had to been moving pretty fast, and so all had been repainted, and it's ace, man. It's right on. I mean, the match is dead on. Now, I haven't gotten the lights out and everything, but it looks great. And then the byproduct is I have the Euro front bumper, which, again, if you're not familiar with M3s or American cars in general, they always have the goofy amber reflector somewhere on it, and so the amber reflectors are removed and filled on a Euro front bumper and repainted. So that was awesome, because that's something I would have liked to have done that I probably never would have done. All right, so now we have the car, and it's here. So what happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.